Hi everybody, welcome to No Story is Sacred. We're four siblings who are raised by working freelance authors. And when you have a big family with two parents who are full-time writers, the craft of writing basically becomes a family business. We grew up talking about the art of storytelling. Now that we're adults, we're still talking about it, and we're inviting you to join the conversations. I'm Alex, and I like brains.
I'm Brendan, and we're coming to get you.
I'm Kat, and I have a lot of theories about social stuff.
I'm Pippin, and I don't actually do horror.
Oh, Pip.
Pippin.
Oh.
They're definitely coming to get you.
Shut up! Oh my god!
Today we're talking about George Romero's classic zombie film, The Night of the Living Dead, so spoilers abound. If you want specific content warnings, check out the show notes on nostorysacred.com. For those of you who either haven't seen the movie or need reminding about what it's about, Kat looked up the summary on Google and found the following. A disparate group of individuals take refuge in an abandoned house when corpses begin to leave the graveyard in search of fresh human bodies to devour. The pragmatic bend...
I think fresh is inaccurate, but...
Well, mostly fresh.
The pragmatic Ben does his best to control the situation, but when the reanimated bodies surround a house, the other survivors begin to panic. As any semblance of order within the group begins to dissipate, the zombies start to find ways inside. And one by one, the living humans become the prey of the deceased ones. And that's stuff right there, because the zombies didn't really need to find a way in. They were shown the door.
Yeah, it's like, oh, here's the door.
There's the door, guys.
If you don't like it, there's the door.
No.
Also, I'd like to welcome new listeners to my cat, who is once again gracing us with his presence.
Hello, Moochie.
I like how he sounds like an evil creature in the horror-themed episode.
That's true. That's true. Like, should I go look for the cat, guys?
Yeah.
You go over there,
Yes.
and I'll go look for the cat.
See who survives.
He is a prototypical cat scare.
Aw.
He's a black cat, guys.
So when I was watching Night of the Living Dead to prepare for this, I kept on thinking, you know what? I'm probably going to be the Johnny in terms of our family dynamic. If we were in the Night of the Living Dead situation, I'd be like, oh, they're coming to get you, Pippin. Ooh.
Yeah, I'm going to let you know right now. I was kind of happy when Johnny died.
Nah, he was a prick. Yeah. Johnny was a prick.
He really was.
But story-wise, can we just acknowledge a couple of things? One, horror genre. The second Barbara started praying and he started making fun of her for it, I'm like, your days are numbered. Your minutes are numbered, bro.
Yeah, that kind of sealed his fate as far as horror genre is concerned. Yeah. Although, a lot of Night of the Living Dead was pretty subversive when it came to the genre,
Holy
though,
shit,
but we can get into that later.
The other thing I want to mention is that the first notes that I have written down is that Johnny died first, like he should, that dick.
Yeah.
And then underneath, he'll probs come back.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so that's actually one of the things I like story-wise. I really appreciated that we see him putting on his gloves, but it's a really, noticeable thing. Like, why is he wearing gloves? And that's how we identified him later as a zombie.
I didn't notice the gloves.
Well, fuck.
Driving gloves are kind of douchey.
We saw him putting them on. But I just took them off, but I'm putting these back on.
I was distracted at the time.
Ooh. Well, also just the fact that they take forever to find the grave of their deceased father that they visit every single year.
Right.
A little awkward.
I don't know. I could kind of see that. I don't keep good track of where all the graves of people I love are. You know.
But if you went there every year, you know where to park, is all I'm saying. It's like, oh yeah, right there.
Yeah.
And though props to Johnny, he does go to save Barbara when she is in danger. Chicks are screaming a bit, but, you know.
Though I like to point out how later on they point out that a single zombie, really easy to just sort of knock over.
Oh, yes.
Johnny cannot even handle that.
Okay, wait. Let's briefly take a moment here. Johnny and Barbara are siblings. That took me a long time to figure out, by the way. I could not figure out their relationship.
Really?
Shut up. So they're siblings, and they've gone to visit the grave of apparently their father, and that's when the first zombie shows up.
There were a lot of moments where I was all like, oh, and this is the thing that will happen with this. And I was wrong. Like, Barbara gets a butcher knife. And at first I was like, yeah, totally grab a weapon. And then she sort of keeps playing with it. I'm like, that knife is important. And then nothing happens with it.
Well, I guess it's not long. We mentioned it before already. Johnny is not long for this world in the movie. He gets killed off within the first 10 minutes. Barbara goes running and screaming for a while, as horror protagonists do, ends up in the cabin, and pretty much spends the rest of the movie in a near really lame catatonic state. And yeah, she just plays with the knife. She plays with little bits of wood. She doesn't really affect the story much.
And another thing that I thought, this is important and will come back, was the corpse upstairs.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, and that will come back, and that's, the danger one of the dangers from inside.
I don't know. I liked how the big danger inside is always the people.
Well,
That's the survivor genre in a nutshell. It's never about the existing horror outside. It's the fact that humans are dicks.
I'm all for the real monster is ourselves, but that corpse was up there.
It was a mantelpiece corpse.
Mantelpiece corpse.
I'm just imagining a corpse just draped beautifully on a mantelpiece. It's very Hannibal Lecter.
As one does.
That's a mental image I wish I did not have.
I love you.
Aw.
Also,
Sure you do.
But I guess to quickly kind of go through the rest of the movie, I mean, Ben, I just love Ben. He's the guy who gets shit done.
Yeah.
Competence porn. That's
And the thing is, he's not like, without faults and, makes mistakes, of course, mostly toward the end. Like, he actually is like, you know what? There's this shit going down and I'm going to solve it. And Barbara plays with bits of wood.
Well, here's the thing. I actually went and did some research into this, how this was made. And, in the original script, first of all, Ben was white. And second of all, he was, spoke in a less than intelligent manner.
Oh no.
He was a gruff truck driver or something. But then Dwayne Jones, not applied, auditioned, thank you, for the part and blew them out of the water. But he still had the other script to work with. So he was a stage actor. And so he ended up sort of just rewriting his lines as he went along. So much competence porn. So much. I could watch him putting boards on a wall for hours, and I did.
And I mean, later on in the movie, when he has confrontations with Harry, he has the world's best fuck you looks.
Yeah. I love me a good fuck you look.
I think Helen's fuck you eyes were above and beyond Ben's. Helen the wife.
I could see that.
Oh, I think Helen had my favorite line in the entire movie.
I wrote it down.
Oh,
let's see if we wrote down the same line.
Oh, let's see if Al predicts what Pip is saying.
To be right, and have everyone else be wrong.
Ooh, no, that's not the one I have written down.
Wait, did I get lied to about twins synchronizing?
To be fair, his line is really good. But no, I have we may not enjoy living together, but dying together won't solve anything.
That is classic married couples, am I right?
It's like that marriage was ending that night one way or another.
Yeah. I mean, I felt I guess, jumping ahead in the story, surprise, surprise, after Ben competently boards up the entire house, there were actually people in the basement the entire time who were kind of, hiding.
Assholes, I think you'll find it is.
Yeah, well, cowards, to be charitable. Yeah, we have, Harry and Helen, the married couple with their injured, quote unquote, daughter. She's bitten.
I think that was Karen.
Yeah,
Karen, yes.
Even before we knew she was bitten, I was like, no, that girl's coming back and it's going to be awesome. But I wasn't sure because I'm like, it's the 60s or whatever. Like, maybe they won't go that far.
And they did, and it was awesome.
It was so good.
Oh, man.
And then we have Tommy the idiot.
The good-hearted idiot.
Good-hearted idiot. And his girlfriend.
That
Shoot. What's
Jody?
her name? Jody, yeah.
Jody McUseless.
Hey, she's not Barbara.
I have arguments about the validity of Barbara, so I will cut you about that.
Well, with Barbara, I'm actually going to just jump right into it here. What she's here for is to parallel the zombies.
Ooh.
Ah.
Nice.
Because she rambles about. What do zombies do? Ramble about and eat brains. I'm doing a hand gesture, and I just remembered that you guys aren't here.
Aww. But I felt it in my heart.
There's the twinness right there.
What's the hand gesture, Al? Describe it.
That sounded really bad, man.
Yeah.
Is it your basic thriller?
No, I'm doing the...
Thriller.
I'm doing the, hands forward, palm up, kind of, I'm showing you this thing in gesture.
Alright, so go on, Al. So she's the parallel for the zombies, right?
And as the night gets worse, so does she. But hey, at the end, she does manage to go, oh no, better be useful, and then die.
Well, wait a second, though. I thought that you were talking about how you would change the movie. And yeah, I think it would have been fucking awesome and that's kind of what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
Where Barbara, we don't know if she was hurt. And so she is in this position where she's, reflecting the zombie thing because she is slowly becoming a zombie. There was a spot when she flinches from the fire of Helen's cigarette. And I'm like, oh shit, son!
Oh, yeah.
This is kind of the brainwave I was just having just now as I was thinking about Barbara being a parallel for the zombies. Mm-hmm. Eventually, shit goes down. Tommy, the idiot, dies along with his girlfriend. And Harry, the asshole, takes Ben's gun and fighting ensues. Almost everybody except Ben dies. I almost wonder, would have been cool if, at that point, it's when Barbara snaps and it's like, well, we can't be food for the zombies. We gotta all go meet Johnny.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like the silent, not silent killer, but, it's the... with these kind of survival stories, it's always the threat from within. Mm-hmm. And again, I like the fact that it was a very human kind of fight that ends up happening where it's just like, oh, two guys vying for control of the situation. Things end badly. Mm-hmm. The end.
The end.
Giving Barbara more agency is important, I think.
Yeah. I think that if she had actually revealed something at the end, that would have made up for all of the previous. And then you would have been like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Really, all I wanted her to do was stab somebody with that butcher knife. Zombie, human, I don't care.
There needed to be more stabbing. You don't establish the hell out of that butcher knife without having someone get stabbed.
Really, anything I'm watching, I think to myself, there could be more stabbing.
More stabbing,
Well, that's just life.
Yeah.
Legitimate life choice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So let's delve right into, I guess, the story changes. We kind of touched it on a little bit, and I think we summed it up well enough, right? Basically everyone dies. Again, for the horror genre back in the 1960s, that was subversive as hell.
Yeah.
Generally with the horror genre back in the day there, the good guys end up triumphing over the horror thing in the end of the movie. But this, everyone dies messily, which wasn't really a thing up until that point. And man, it blew people's minds.
Apparently there were kids who went to the movie theater because that's what you did. Of course, Saturday matinee, which is when they showed this movie. And so they're like 8-year-old children in the audience weeping.
Oh.
I have an 8-year-old. She would have noped out of this hard.
I want to nope out of this.
That's right, Pip, you are actually have issues with horror. Can you just talk a little bit about what about horror gets you?
Oh, I am just so easily frightened. I am frightened of just about everything.
What's that song that makes you scared?
The one that you like to make fun of me for, you jerk, is the Leslie Fish song, Carmen Miranda's Ghost.
Is Haunted Space Station 3?
Yeah.
That's weird.
It's just a funny song. It's just, on occasion, I think about the line, you might just see a tangerine come rolling down the floor. And I'm like, without any context, a tangerine you know shouldn't be there? It's like, where the fuck did it come from?
You heard it here first, folks. The true horror are tangerines rolling down the floor.
No, because I like to think that I have an imagination, so I can envision all the terrible things that can happen to me.
Involving fruit.
It's actually very fascinating that you mention normal things that appear out of nowhere, because that was one of the definitions of horror that showed up in a short story / novella called The White People. There's this definition of horror, which is like, it's not the thing that is the monstrous or the horrifying necessarily. It's the thing that is not natural. If you walk down the street and you see a rose growing from the street and it's entirely out of stone, that in and of itself is horrifying because that's not natural. You have no explanation for it. Even though it's pretty or whatever, you would be freaked out.
Yeah. And
subversion of the natural order, but not for comedy's sake.
Oh, even sometimes for comedy's sake, I can just go, nope. But actually, for Night of the Living Dead, I was okay for most of it. And it was up until the end when the zombies were
crashing through the walls.
Yeah, and there was clearly no way out.
Yeah.
At that point, I was like, yes, I am now frightened.
And hey, you know what? In the end, Harry was right. The basement was the place to go.
I know. That was like, oh. Well done, Harry. He was completely right. Like,
you win.
I guess you were right after all.
Well, I'm sure Harry would have fucked it up somehow anyway.
Well, yeah.
I knew going in that Ben would be the last one to die, but that he would still die. But it wasn't until the end when I was like, oh, people are going to kill him.
Yep, mistaken for a zombie. Unfortunate.
The thing is, at the very beginning of the movie, when it's just Barbara and Ben in the house, is a woman and a black man. And all the zombies around at that point were white dudes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so whether George Romero intended it or not, that to me is a story of oppression. You know, these are the patriarchy, you know, the white patriarchy coming in and trying to kill people who are trying to make it through.
Well, keep in mind, one of the other major cultural things happening at this time is the Vietnam War. And that could also be like societal pressures happening as well.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I think one of the major themes in the movie is more of a cynicism, you know, or pessimism rather. So like, to me, the zombie horde is just, you know, kind of representing the inevitability, and they're inevitably going to get into the house and inevitably they're going to eat you. That matches how, like, a lot of people at that point in time, you know, this is what, 1968, 1969, that people are starting to sour on the war there, that it's being this kind of terrible thing. So I think that could also be like one of the major themes playing as well.
Totally. Though I think what this shows is how sometimes stories can come back with new meanings.
Yes.
That weren't necessarily intended by their creator, but are nevertheless not invalid. It's totally, you know, a reading that you can do.
And of course, it's also a completely valid reading to be like, you know what? Sometimes the curtain is blue and these are zombies coming in to eat us all.
Oh, you should reference what sometimes the curtains are blue means.
Ah, yes. So, sometimes the curtain is blue is kind of an anti-critique of, literary criticism? Yeah, I think we're very guilty of this, overanalyzing what's going on in the story.
Fuck you, I analyze just enough.
So the example is a group of people, I guess, looking at a story in which the author goes and describes this room in, you know, a good amount of detail, and then makes it a point to mention, oh, the curtains, they're blue. And so people go in, it's like, oh, clearly the author was depressed when they wrote this. That's why the curtains are blue, because blue is a sad color and yada, yada, yada. But then the counterpoint is, you know, asking the author later, so what did the blue curtains mean? And it's like, they're just blue curtains. That's what that reference means.
Yeah.
No, really, that's kind of a an argument against the author. The author is dead and all that.
The death of the author, another one.
So the death of the author refers to the intentional fallacy,
Yes.
which is sort of saying that the text is the text, and what the author meant by it doesn't really matter. Is all what you get from it. And so you shouldn't really pay attention to what the author has to say. Though, it was pointed out to me by one of my professors that the intentional fallacy was thought up by a bunch of southern white dudes.
Oh, weak.
Oh, wow. Anyway, back on topic here. Let's talk about changes. Let's get right into the kind of meat of it. Let's spin the wheel here and Pippin, what would you change in Night of the Living Dead? You were kind of scared about it, so if you're writing Night of the Living Dead, I know horror is not your genre, so maybe this might go in weird directions, but let's see what happens.
Well, I appreciate what horror does as an art form. Mm-hmm. I'm just stupidly easy to frighten. What horror, one of the things that horror can do well is social commentary. So I would actually lean in to the whole patriarchy thing. I'm not actually sure there's a ton I would change in the whole overarching thing. Like the inevitability of violence, how we're all going to die in the end. 'Cause I'm secretly super depressing. What I would actually change is, I would take all of those those things that get brought up and then nothing happens. Mm-hmm. Like, Barbara and her knife, she's stabbing something, with that phallic symbol. And then the corpse, upstairs, who I think was a corpse of a woman. And that can be misogynistic women, cause some of us aren't on board the feminism train. So internalized misogyny, and so she rises up and kills everybody too. I would have the threat coming more from inside as well as outside, if that makes sense.
It sounds like you wouldn't necessarily lean just on horror tropes. I mean, I think that to a certain degree, there's almost an incidental lesson about the patriarchy or about outsiders or what have you that came about sort of magically out of what otherwise would have been just a bunch of horror tropes. And you're suggesting, no, let's push that to the fore. Let's actually make this cohesive with that in mind.
Really, I want to make a zombie parable about internalized misogyny.
Fair enough.
Al, what would you do?
All right. Well, several times in this film, we get the characters telling about what they were doing just before. I kind of actually want to watch these. Now, I'm not...
So, like, we had Barb... Yeah.
We had Barb, but Ben's was actually the more interesting way to open.
Oh, yeah?
Like a flaming truck? Like 50 zombies?
Too expensive to film.
Probably.
Yep.
Well, yes. But assume money is no object in this case.
Yeah.
So Ben's jumping out of flaming cars, has like flaming machetes in each hand, and...
Yeah. Now, at this point, I'm kind of talking about a separate kind of movie.
It's like that prequel of The Living Dead.
Yeah.
Go on.
I still actually kind of like the way they handled it here, because them telling their stories actually adds to the claustrophobia that we feel inside that house. So, like, I'm torn about this, because I want to watch these, but I like how they're presented here.
Yeah, no, it's understandable.
Like, I know it violates the rules of show don't tell, the way they do it here, but, it's done wonderfully.
Yeah. The thing I kind of made a note about in, watching the movie was they did a pretty good job of, like, increasing the dread as the film goes on, the claustrophobia, the general insanity of it all, closed off room, the living dead are outside the door. Kind of telling war stories, like, how the heck did you guys survive this? Oh, wow, that's intense. Damn. Wow, Tommy, you tied your shoes and then you wound up here? Wow, that's cool.
Fucking Tommy.
He was useless. He was really good at lighting a truck on fire. Yeah, he meant well.
Here's the thing, right? I kind of blame Ben for the truck setting on fire. 'Cause he's the one who put the torch down
That's
so close
true.
to the truck.
Ben's at least trying.
Yeah.
And you can actually anticipate, the gas coming out of the nozzle while you're,
Transferring it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody dropped the ball, let's be honest here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of what I didn't like. There's the pan failed because of Butterfingers.
Whoops.
Well, I feel like that's what would happen in an actual survivor situation. Something fucks up because we're all panicked.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, stay tuned for mine, Pip.
Ooh. But no, just to jump off your feeling of mounting dread, one of the things I liked is how every time they looked out a window, there's a couple of more zombies. And also every time...
Yes.
Every time we got exposition, like through the radio broadcast or the TV broadcast, it would repeat the last bit we knew and then add to it.
It yes-anded the news broadcast.
It's like, here's what we know. There are violent killers in the street. All right, we told you there are violent killers in the street. It looks like they may be eating people. All right, if we said they might be eating people, it also looks like maybe this is NASA's fault.
Oops.
And just...
NASA came out of left field, I gotta tell you. Like, what the fuck, man? Radiation? Okay. From space.
Aliens got mentioned early on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Shaun of the Dead handled the zombie exposition in a much better way, although in a comedic way, where everybody just speculating, and Edgar Wright kind of throws a whole lot of different potential causes of the zombie outbreak, but not outright committing to any particular one. So it's like that's how it would actually go down in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. So Al, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think I'm good. I like this movie, and I don't really have much to change about it, except just tiny the edits and stuff. Like some of the scenes on that television looked a bit rushed.
There's one that there's just a news broadcast that happens like during the day when there's still night at the house.
Yeah, that's a little awkward.
And in the city, the city is completely normal and not panicked.
Yeah.
Washington D.C. no less, which frankly, if a zombie apocalypse was happening on the eastern seaboard, yeah, they'd be panicking in D.C. too.
Yeah. Well, this is why I feel like I actually took that as a sign that this is largely symbolic, or rather that's how you could interpret this. It's that whole inside versus outside thing and Pip's misogyny thing. The solution that they've come up with by the end of the film is not actually that practical. Case in point, roving bands of white dudes with guns shooting basically anybody who moves who isn't one of them. Which is a lot of people, and the zombies aren't... They're just walking around during the daylight too. It's just, what's the end game here?
Well, the sequels kind of play into that a little bit.
They don't exist. Author's dead.
Oh, well.
Oh, but he is.
Well, that's the thing. I think it's supposed to be the roving bands of militias with guns are probably doing more harm than good at this stage in the crisis. Yeah. Spoiler alert, there's a sequel, that I think takes place chronologically 3 months later, or maybe 3 weeks later. So it's 3 something later because rule of threes.
Yeah.
Humans like 3. Yeah.
Yeah. That shit didn't work. It worked okay in the countryside, where I guess the population density is small, so they probably just killed everybody. And yeah. What's sad is that kind of knowing our hometown, I could probably see armed militias doing that crap.
Instantly.
100% easily. But, so the world is not better off for having these roving militia. It's like a temporary band-aid and not a very good one.
Yeah, we see at the end of the movie that it doesn't work because innocent people are killed.
Poor Ben.
Oh, yeah.
There's one right now. The zombies have learned how to use guns, though actually these are tool-using zombies.
Yeah, they're totally smart.
Which is why they're just symbolic. What?
So Kat, what would you change in Night of the Living Dead?
What I'm thinking of is changes to make that would have made this a different but also good movie. Mm-hmm. The ones that come to mind... Well, first of all, the way storytelling works is generally you start with the character that you're going to follow throughout. They're the main character. Whoever you start with is probably going to make it to the end, unless it's a prologue. In horror movies, the prologue tends to be, the blonde at the beginning. But in this case, Barbara did make it past the first 10 minutes. We start the story with her technically we could have something where she makes it to the end. She could have that moment where she gets her act together a lot sooner. The downside to this is that, well, it puts Ben in a very fascinating position. If she's our main character, if she's our viewpoint, if she's who we expect to go, to the end, then that puts Ben in a position of, well, who is he? What is he? What role does he play in her story? So if you're talking about danger coming from the inside, that would be him. And he could be that really cool thing where, they seem like a good guy, but yoinks. Not. And so I would love it if we had Barbara being the main character and then we have Ben in some way being the real villain. Downside. Well, then. Yeah. There is doing things that are right for the story, but you also have to take into account the world. If you don't take into account the world, then the next thing you know, you have racist bullshit. And then you're that author who's like,
no, I didn't mean this.
It was totally necessary to the story, though. Well, was it, Frank? Was it?
God damn it, Frank. Always ruin everything.
Yeah, it's a fictional story, but it could have real-world consequences, and we don't want to hurt people in the real world. Only jerks do that.
Frank. Fucking
Don't be
Frank.
like Frank, kids.
Putting that on a mug right now. Don't be like Frank.
Well, the thing is, you could have that kind of relationship between Ben and Barbara there, but being very careful that it's not being done for, sinister purposes or stuff like that. It could just be, typical run-of-the-mill, I wouldn't say sexism, but, stuff like that where it's oh, no, don't worry, I've got this. It's okay, haha. And he keeps on doing stupid decisions, and he gets called out on it, which I think that actually might be something that was done in Peter Gunn's version of Night of the Living Dead. It's been a while since I've seen that version. What's actually kind of funny is that they did make the Barbara character more competent in that particular remake.
Well, I just actually thought of something while you were talking, although I was totally listening as well. Don't worry. So here's a cool story based on what I know about the way stories work. So now let me overlay that over the way the world works. Okay, well, I gotta fix that. And so I'm I don't want Ben to be the bad guy because, racism. Well, what if there's a perception in the, with Barbara and with the audience that, oh no, he's a bad guy because we push into,
those roles.
Exactly. Push into the racial fears. And then, whoops, turns out Barbara's an asshole. The audience are assholes. Ben was totally cool the whole time.
Although Ben in the story originally was kind of an asshole too. I mean, let's be honest.
He didn't know who the hell Barbara was, and he's still okay, pretty sure you're not a zombie or whatever, so we're gonna board up all these... he was...
Later on in the story.
Oh, yeah, well, I appreciated, actually, in the scene where he's doing his monologue about how he got into this position in the house. You could sort of see him breaking a little bit, and then he sort of, hauls himself up by his bootstraps because he's well, only one of us can be crazy at a time. But everybody's under pressure here.
I actually have in my notes, oh, he stopped to think.
Actually, talking about with kind of questionable decisions, one note I had was, Ben, I know Harry is an asshole, but he probably shouldn't be punched right now. It's not productive.
Yeah.
I was thinking one punch probably could have cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe two. He was a real asshole.
He was an asshole. I feel like the shooting him was a little over the top. Knock him unconscious or something. You did it with Barbara earlier. That seemed to work out okay.
Yeah, don't shoot
someone...
Well,
Barbara was halfway there.
Don't shoot someone after you already know that the dead are coming back in minutes.
That's true. That was dude, really?
Oops.
I would have actually preferred it if he had gotten a flesh wound, had run away, and then Karen, attacked him. Karen, the little girl.
Yeah.
Then it wouldn't have been that stupid a fucking move. No, he's just flesh wounding him. It's which in real life is not actually something you can say just about. But we're looking at film logic or story logic. Yes, we can have just a flesh wound.
Gentlemen, shoot to wound.
What do you want to do to the story?
Well, here's what I'm thinking. We were talking about how we wanted to try and do an adaptation if, I was trying to write it today. So that's kind of the flavor I was approaching was retelling this story for a modern audience. I think we kind of jokingly call this like filing off the serial numbers. Taking that original story concept and, we'll just change little things. And what do you know? It's a brand new original story by me. Ha ha.
That's a term from fanfic history, I believe. Fandom.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not actually, I think it might be older, not older than fanfic, but
about as old as guns.
When it's applied to stories is usually when it was fanfic being turned into real fiction that you could publish.
Here's the thing, I never heard it in context of fanfic.
All right, well, really? I have. So, there.
No, that's totally what it is, but I usually hear it in context of, if you don't come up with your own major battle, steal one from history.
Oh, okay.
File off the serial numbers, put it in your story.
Oh, see, I was just defining that as fanfic too. Go on.
So anyway, so things I'd change. We were talking about what Barbara represents over the course of our conversation here. For me, I kind of like what Al mentioned, like how she's like the echo of the zombies, for instance, inside the house, how she behaves similarly. I think that's just more of a side effect that she just doesn't have much to do. I think one of the things that I'm probably trying to do in this case is have this entire piece represent how people behave in a crisis in general. And the character of Barbara would in turn represent how the average person would realistically behave in a crisis. So always looking to authority for advice or looking for commands. Cause, if you don't know how to respond to threat XYZ, you're going to freeze up. You're going to have analysis paralysis or other innumerable number of, ways you can maybe poorly react to a crisis. And I think that could be how Barbara is kind of the audience, XB character, the audience representation. She's kind of looking to maybe characters in the story who are driving things forward, trying to, make decisions, trying to lead. And one of the things I think would be kind of interesting to play with as a theme, other than post 2000s, the moroseness of conflict and stuff like that, all conflicts tend to drag out forever and all that. But what I think would be a really interesting theme to explore are the other ensemble cast members. I think could in turn be how various people try to take command of a really bad situation. So you have your charismatic assertive types who are just kind of your natural born leaders, making decisions and stuff like that, and maybe not the most informed ones. And then maybe you have people like Harry who are just operating on some incorrect script in their heads, and they are absolutely convinced that that script is correct and will ignore any and all warnings, that other people or the environment might give them, much to not only their own detriment, but anybody that they're trying to corral into following what they're doing. Kind of things like that. So kind of playing with how people try to take control of a situation. And you have Barbara, who's kind of representing your standard audience member who probably hasn't ever had to take command of a situation. Not many of us are actually trained in crisis response. It's a skill. It's something that is not necessarily ingrained in all of us.
Actually,
So what do you think of that?
Can I bounce off of what you've just said?
Shoot.
So one of the things that, again, when you're writing your own stuff, it is sometimes useful to impose a structure that maybe the audience will never see. It's for your benefit to help you, get something together. And also, if you pick something that is familiar because it's informed the entire rest of your culture, then there will be a resonance with audience whether or not they ever realize your structure. Mm-hmm. So what you were just saying there reminded me hugely of the early history of theater. The early stuff, they were moral tales, but you had
mystery plays.
Yes, thank you, mysteries, which does not in this case mean whodunits, but it's because it comes out of the religious history. But your main character would be something like Everyman. That was his legit fucking name. And then he'd meet people on the road named I don't know, lust. Stuff like that.
How you doing, Lust?
Lust, Charity, who's the better person to hang out with? Let's try Lust first.
We're gonna try that first.
I think she's better at parties.
Actually, weirdly, I imagined Lust as a dude, but okay. I don't know why. But
To each their own.
it's very much you're talking about exploring the archetype story, which is what that was. That's where, if you start diving into, at least, certainly theater and film, and I think you can do it with books as well, you start getting into, people represent one thing or another. You don't have just a straight up story, something symbolic. Who knows? Characters are like that too. And it sounds like in this case, you could push that more. I love the idea of having this is a demo of what this would be like. And what we're going to do is we're going to use these archetypes of people and have them run around and, so our everyman is Barbara.
Yeah.
And,
And hell, Barbara could still be going a little bit crazy too, because again, in a chaotic crisis situation, the everyman is gonna go a little crazy.
Oh yeah. But then we're seeing it from her point of view because we are her. So yeah, we're going nuts as well. But then she gets to interact with all these other archetypes and we're seeing the pluses and minuses of all of them. Although in a mystery play, we're supposed to come inevitably to the quote unquote correct answer, which in this case is Ben.
Well, I'd almost say the correct answer is kind of like a fusion between various archetypes. Like for instance, Harry is maybe the pragmatist, the basement is secure. Let's go there and wait for the storm to pass, which is, it's a very practical thing to do. And just how he goes about conveying that and trying to enforce that is a little bit bad, but...
Well, you have to think of his mirrored reaction. So on the one hand, you have, what's his balance? That starts getting into humoral theory, the humors. What's his balance in himself? He does think that, he's got the right idea. He was practical in that regard. So where is the opposite of that? What does his wish for security, what's the negative? Well, we see it in the movie, though. We actually see it. The wish for security is, the reverse of that is that he's willing to,
kill
everybody else to achieve that security.
Security for himself.
Yeah.
And his family.
Yeah.
Mostly himself, but his family too.
His daughter.
This reminds me that I was thinking one of the morals of Night of the Living Dead is how important teamwork is.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Because, one zombie can't really do much to you. A whole pile of zombies working together, they can cause an apocalypse.
Well, that's the thing. At least in this case, to me, zombies represent just inevitability. You're inevitably going to die. Try as you might, it's going to come for us all. But how everybody reacts to that is vastly different.
That's true as well.
A lot of people panic.
I think in particular with zombies and with any other cryptid or fantasy-like characters, fairies or what have you, you can't escape the more symbolic aspect of it.
I don't like where zombies have gone in pop culture overall. I think, this is probably a side effect of movies and video games and all that, where nowadays, I think you touched on before how a zombie represents just an other. In terms of video games and just games in general, they're something that's human that you can just kill in a game and not feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if the zombies aren't representing something, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes they could just be the existential threat, and I almost like it more when zombies are just a background piece. It's oh, yeah, they're zombies, but really, let's look at how these people doing a power struggle in this new world are behaving. And that's usually at least where the Romero movies tend to go. Is it's almost like the zombies are just a set piece. They aren't really the antagonist. Usually it's almost always people being dicks.
I think that genre, the locked room, except that we're the people in the locked room, it has a lot, I think, has a lot to thank Night of the Living Dead for.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because it It's a pressure cooker. Very much of the, well, how would people really react in these circumstances?
See, this is one of the points I was kind of making as far as, or at least leading to, as far as filing off the serial numbers and trying to retell this nowadays. I'd almost just scrap having zombies. Yeah, it wouldn't be Night of the Living Dead anymore. If I could get rid of the zombies, it'd just make it like, oh, hey, we're just a bunch of strangers having to survive together. It could just be in the woods for all I really care. But like how people react in a high pressure, chaotic situation, a lot of times it just goes to shit. At that point, it becomes, I have to decide what kind of genre I'm going to stick to in the end. If it's horror, then likely only Barbara would make it out in the end, depending on my mood when I write it.
Well, at that point, I think it starts being one of those, a plot that you can just pull around, or a conceit that you can just put anywhere, and it slightly changes the flavor depending on the genre. If you have it in horror, it's a pressure cooker and everybody's going to die, or somebody's going to go insane. Maybe multiple people are going to go insane. If it's a romantic comedy, it's going to turn into a French farce. Multiple people are going to have sex with each other, not the people who are actually in love with each other, or maybe they all hate each other. I mean, if it's a if it's an action movie, we're talking like, it's going to be like, Snakes on a Plane. That's what it's going to be. You're in a locked space and it's, pressure cooker. It's just lacking the horror aspect, which is there is not anything directly horrific. It's, human and understandable and probably kick-ass. Let's name some other genres.
Literary fiction.
A literary locked door plot is they're all on the Titanic. No, they're all in Italy. And they're looking at, the fall of the banks. And
oh, no. I just had a thought. A brainwave.
Do it.
Okay. We could do historical fiction horror, The Night of Pompeii.
Holy shit. Actually, can we do that? Because that sounds really cool. Like, seriously, that is the horror movie of their life. You don't know what the fuck's going on.
You have the priest convinced that Hephaestus or whoever is royally pissed off at the town and trying to find the heretic.
Yeah. I mean, you have the lovers who embraced each other. I mean, it's important to recognize what the base plot of a story is. Not the symbolism. That's something you add on afterwards. Not the characters. That's something you add on afterwards. Look at the bare bones. That's when you can start playing around with genres. You can stick it anywhere. That's the true filing the serial numbers off.
No, I'm still thinking about Pompeii.
I know! Oh my god! Let's figure out a way to bring it back to Night of the Living Dead, which is, how can we make the volcano and zombies equal, story-wise?
Well, to me, the zombies just represent, inevitability and all that. So, like, you kind of see, like, the first little smoke plume come out, and some people are, like, understandably worried, and maybe they're barricading. It's like, oh, we might have to find safe ground, but I mean, I just talked to the priest, and he's saying we're going to be okay, and it doesn't improve from there, and then there's panic on the streets and all sorts of crazy stuff.
Well, see, that's the general of what would happen in reality. Where's the story? Take it down. Compress it down. Who's your character? Who's your viewpoint? Where's the house and Ben and Barbara and, the fucking people in the basement?
Oh, here's the thing. I'm not sure I know enough about Pompeii and, Rome to say.
We have to do some research, yeah. Well, you could have like characters maybe visiting the city and, the volcano always does that. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And things suddenly get worse. And now you have maybe the Barbara and Johnny characters scrambling to find a safe location in the middle of an eruption that suddenly went from, oh, it's going to be okay to, oh, holy shit.
Nope, it's not. Nope.
We lied. Oh, crap. Stupid weatherman.
Well, I mean, if you want to do a 1-to-1, this is a great way to find plots, by the way, without having it be a copyright problem. So you have Barbara and Johnny, or Aurelia and Flavius. And
Flavius.
Shut up. They've come to town and they're looking around. Isn't this nice? They're maybe visiting the home of their forefathers.
Something. Oh, yeah.
you know.
I had a better idea than that.
Oh, go.
They're going to go pray at the temple, and Johnny is being a dick about it. And the gods are pissed.
That brings in the existential fear of, did we cause this for zombies? Fucking Barbara. No.
The Furies are coming for you, Barbara.
Yeah. I mean, the trick is, you can do your setting. You can come up with these big ideas.
Yeah.
You can have your big world, but then you gotta dive down into character. Brendan, that's a thing that you've mentioned before. Plot starts with character.
I mean, hell, now I'm just kind of picturing, like, Ben is like a centurion.
Yeah.
Henry is, obnoxious Roman lord or something. I mean,
actually,
you can play with this.
I'd really like it if Henry was a centurion, and the centurion should be used to doing shit, but
is failing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's got his family there, or maybe he's got his lover. I don't know. We can decide what to do with that. Point is, he's being a dick.
Every version, Harry's being a dick.
Exactly. Holy shit, guys. This has nothing to do with Night of the Living Dead, but I want to fucking read I think I want to read this book.
Read Volcano of the Living Fire.
Night of the Living Volcano. What?
There we go. Oh.
See, that's a bit too obvious.
Yeah, but I love it anyway.
Yeah, but this is one of the things where unless you told the audience that you were doing this, they may not notice.
Go over their heads,
Exactly.
except they'll listen to this now, so...
Fuck!
Dear listeners, ignore this. You're gonna be in the know. Don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anyone.
And then you can impress people at parties by having really deep knowledge about the night Pompeii exploded.
Or you could be like, actually, I heard the authors talking about this one. And then, Marcy over in the corner says, fuck you, the author's dead. It's just about Pompeii.
Sometimes volcanoes are just volcanoes.
They're not zombies, Brad.
Oh.
Meanwhile, Frank's in the corner being like, this is a good story. I'm gonna copy this. Fucking Frank.
Yes.
Fucking Frank.
That's our t-shirt. That'll be our first t-shirt.
But man, yeah, now I'm kind of curious about this Pompeii story. So hey.
I think that's even one of the points of investigating these stories, of taking them apart. Because this is how you learn to find the weird creative stories that you need to be able to pull out of your pocket.
What's funny is that I didn't even think about Pompeii at all before talking about it just now tonight. I didn't have anything in my notes or anything like that. It's just like, oh yeah, that's kind of a big looming threat that happened historically.
Yeah, I mean, that's beautiful. That's where as you say, the secret sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing: is I'm not great at taking a story and making something new out of it just on my own. I watch something, I read something, and go, yeah, that's a story. Good for it. But talking about it, that's when I'm able to go, oh wait, what if we move these pieces? Because when I'm just in a dialogue with the story, I let the story talk and,
Oh, yeah. Well, do you guys have ways, I feel I'm the same way. Have you guys thought of ways around that problem when you don't have, for instance, 3 other siblings to talk to?
I like looking at history and stuff like that, so maybe that's why Pompeii kind of just happened.
Let me just demonstrate with mine. I will turn on my voice recorder on my phone and just start talking to it like I'm talking to someone else. And it doesn't matter if I keep the recording or not. I know it's a real thing, so somehow that creates a dialogue.
So Al, what do you do when you have to suddenly come up with these kind of story concepts when you're kind of pressed against the wall?
What I usually do is wait for my deadline and do it in the last 20 minutes. No.
I mean, no, don't do that.
Yeah, that's a bad thing. That's a bad thing.
Don't do that, kids. Don't do that. Study hard. Go to school.
So, hands up. How many of people have done that?
Oh, of course, we've all done it.
Talk about every term paper.
Yeah, seriously.
Someday I'll tell you about the time my last semester of Simmons the last night. You guys go.
So, okay, so Al, assuming that you're not engaging in dangerous and inappropriate behaviors, what do you do?
I was talking about term papers.
Sure you were, Pip.
I actually usually turn to fanfic.
Oh, really? In what way?
That's legit.
Like, if there's something I want to, write in a story, I'll try, let's see how I do this in a different story.
Oh.
And how they do it. And then okay, what's working and what's not? And let's just remove the bad bits and back to flying off that serial number.
Well, actually, I mean, that brings up the whole idea behind using meta characters as let's see where the weak points are in the story. Meta characters being the sort of ones where you can stick into any story because they are by themselves a sort of, so what if Malcolm Reynolds from Firefly suddenly appeared in Night of the Living Dead?
He shoots everyone in the head and they move on.
He has a lovely night at the house, and
he gives his whole speech about how, he doesn't usually have a roof over his head.
Well, he's heavily armed and kind of angry. He's fine.
Yeah. And he wouldn't take any of Henry's bullshit.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, but what would drive him over the edge? Not a whole hell of a lot. Well, and then you start thinking about these things, and it's an instant idea generator. So yeah, fanfic using meta characters, that's a brilliant and another awesome way to go.
Though I was going to say, now I'm thinking of Night of the Living Coffee Shop AU.
Oh no. It's just like an endless horde of people asking for tall skin
coffee.
whip.
Oh my god. It's okay, so it's DC. It's DC. It's commuting hours, okay? I don't know if you've ever been in DuPont Circle.
Yeah.
During the morning, while everybody's trying to get to work, there was literally a Starbucks on every corner of a particular square. And the line for the coffee was still out the door. Now you're the barista. And meanwhile, there's maybe an outside thing, maybe there's a worse commute thing than normal. Let's say there's a motorcade at some point and it's causing a problem further up the line. You don't know why, there's nothing you can do about it. So somehow there's an even bigger crush than normal.
There's a traffic accident just ahead of where the motorcade is supposed to be and it's already on its way.
Yes.
Oof.
Yes. I mean, Coffee Shop AU. Boom.
I was also wondering how social media would work during an actual zombie apocalypse. And if someone hasn't already written it, I'm disappointed in everyone.
Oh, hey, Pip. Hey, Pip, guess what?
I'm not writing it. No, I don't do horror.
Oh,
not doing it.
Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Not
yeah.
Nope.
It's all on you now.
Also, weird Tumblr tags.
Oh, ew. So yeah, I think we touched on a lot of really cool points tonight when it came to the Night of the Living Dead, and somehow we ended up stumbling into coffee shop AUs and and Roman historical stories and all that. So
that one is really cool.
Kind of goes to show how what's honestly a really good, really classic piece of American horror that's influenced countless other movies and books and other bits of pop culture just really goes to show how it's immortal. And while the story might be considered sacred, well, come on, no story is sacred, right?
Elbow, wink, wink.
I like the idea of fucking this story up.
Oh, that's a great bit to start on. So what can we do to utterly explode this story?
Okay, and make it worse? I'm going to say right now, to make it worse, we would need to have a sex scene.
Oh God. Oh. Somebody call Zack Snyder.
That was mean. That was mean.
No, what would be mean is to take the story and make it worse, is to have it be directed by Zack Snyder.
The remake of Dawn of the Dead was directed by one Zack Snyder.
Oh, no, how was it?
No!
I think it was regarded as okay. Not comparable to the original.
Well, what could be? So yeah, that's my, how to make this worse instantly. Add a sex scene.
You know what would make this movie worse?
What, Pip?
If the zombies talked.
Oh.
Because part of the horror is that it's just an unrelenting, silent death coming for you. And if they talked, it'd just be weird. I'm sure I'd find it frightening anyway, because I'm me, but,
And they all had the voice of Gilbert Gottfried.
Oh, God. At that point, it becomes a terrible comedy instead of a terrible horror.
No.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. When you want to humanize something, you give it a voice. You start going further. If it's humans, or other what we consider to be sentient beings, if they start talking, then that humanizes them. Animals, sometimes it turns them creepier. Aliens can go either way.
Man, I'm trying to think, like, what if, you still had, like, more than one child there? Like, just having kids as being the looming threat, not threat, the looming thing we have to protect at all times. Like, I just like the fact that the kid was there in the basement and at some point she's going to go and eat her parents.
Yeah.
But like, having just kids around, it's like, oh, we gotta protect the kids, everybody. It just kind of makes it for like a lame way of, increasing tension.
Yeah.
Well, and adding emotional depth. Yeah. It's like, let's go get the cat. Let's find the cat. It's,
we'll have a kid and a dog inside the house as well. There we go.
That's like that Shakespeare joke. Put a bit with a dog.
Everybody loves a dog.
Everybody loves a bit with a dog. Yeah, no, and particularly if you have really, like, syrupy kids. Like,
Ugh.
Daddy, will everything be okay?
I don't know, sweetheart.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Where's Mommy?
She's taking a little rest, Susie.
Oh.
Yeah, all of a sudden you take mounting dread and horror and all that, and you add a little sappy sideline there. It's okay. So we have kids, sex scene, and what was yours?
Talking zombies.
Talking zombies.
Talking zombies. Al, you're on the hot seat.
I thought of something, then I forgot it. Oh, it was, back to the talking zombies, a boss zombie.
Oof.
Like taking away the entire fucking point of zombies?
Yeah.
The horde.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a zombie that's leading them. Like,
we take out the leader and that'll take out the rest of the zombies.
Uh-huh.
Like, to be fair, I'm sure that any one of these things would be great or at least fine in another movie. It would destroy this particular movie.
Yeah.
I agree.
I just want to emphasize that and say someone staring at their book with
with tears in their eyes as the boss zombie is about to chomp down on a kid.
Saying, this wouldn't be happening if your parents weren't having sex right now.
Oh.
As always, if you have a story to submit, head on over to nostoryissacred.com/submission. Follow us on Twitter at nostoryissacred or send an email through contact@nostoryissacred.com. Your hosts have been Alex, Pippin, Brendan, and me, Kat. Editing for this episode done by Brendan. Transcript done by Ashley DaCosta. Art by Jay Wolf. Show notes and transcript are available at nostoryissacred.com. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time when we take randomly selected tropes and create a story on the spot. It's a game we're calling Wheel of Tropes. Until then, where no story is sacred and any story can be changed.
This was Brendan.
This was Kat.
This was Pippin.
And this was Alex.
And we're No Story is Sacred.